Hello, and welcome to Amateur Philosophers Play Games, the show where two guys on the internet get together, talk about philosophy, philosophical ideas, and whatever else we feel like philosophizing about. I'm Noah, the host, who will also be playing the game today.
I'm Justin, the guy who'll be doing the commentary.
And as you can see, loyal viewers who we definitely have a lot of, we're actually playing a new game today. Justin couldn't make it to the office, so we'll be recording distantly. I'll be playing Spelunky, which is a very fun little game. Probably not nearly as well known as Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, but yeah, you can expect to see me die as we talk about... I don't know, I don't think we're going to talk about death. Right, Justin?
No, not death. We could someday, though.
Yeah, that sounds fun. But not today, not today. So the topic for today actually was social constructs, and what is it? What does it mean? Because I don't know about you, but I've heard the phrase thrown around, oh, that's just a social construct, or X and Y, Z is a social construct, so we should ignore it, or alternatively, we should care about it. But what does that really mean? Like, what are we trying to say when you say something is a social construct?
Right. So a social construct is kind of, if you break down the phrase, is exactly what it means. It's a construct or something that's been made by society. And so social constructs are things that without the human mind or like human beings in general just wouldn't exist in nature. Like you don't find, I don't know, doors in nature. Even though you might find things that look like what we would call a door, they're like animals don't refer to them in some way as a door, right?
Okay.
They just use them as something. And so a social construct is something that we make up as an idea of like, there are certain qualities that make it a door.
Huh.
That like we did like arbitrarily determine that these qualities make it that.
Okay.
So another good example would
so what I'm trying to say is, so anything made by humans or human society, I suppose.
I guess a good way to think of it would be because like a dam, for example for like beavers.
Right.
Like beavers have dams, but like beavers don't think of them as like we think of a dam. Like beavers made those, and then we also made dams. And then we were like, oh look, it's a beaver dam.
Right. So we're assigning a human idea to what we see in nature, but it's not a natural idea.
Exactly. So it's more of the idea or the concept behind whatever that thing is. The concept of a dam is like something that we made up by humans because of something that we physically made. Okay.
So I guess that's good at defining what a social construct isn't, but what is it? So like, for example, we're recording on a computer right now. Is a computer a social construct? Because, I mean, it was made by humans. There's no computers in nature, I think.
Yeah, as far as I know, there's not a computer in nature. But it depends on how, I guess, we would define what a computer is that would determine the social construct of what it is. So in nature, what we see, like if you're an alien race coming out looking at humans, what we're doing is there are these two beings that are using like plastic and metal and electricity configured in such a way to do a podcast.
Right.
Or like, so podcast would also be a social construct. But the term computer, when we say computer, brings to mind a concept in our head. Like we all know what that is. We don't need to like think about it unless you want to get really philosophical about what makes it a computer. But we all have a general idea of what that is. And somehow we haven't really exactly been taught, oh, these are the criteria that make it a computer. We just know,
I'm dead.
That's a computer. Oh, well.
The fact that I got to the second world on my first playthrough, I haven't played this game in a while, this is a hard game. Viewers at home, trust me on this, the fact that I'm doing well means I'm very good. And now the question is the fact that I'm boasting a social construct?
That's actually a good question. And so I think it is in a way because like I mean there's boasting in nature mating displays are often forms of boasting.
Yeah.
But like I don't know
if
animals have the concept of boasting. Like they don't they know what they're doing, but I don't know if they would call it like what we would think of when we say boasting as much as they might be saying, oh, I'm just saying what I have.
Yes, because in human societies, saying you're good at video games is not a very good mating ritual, just from my experience.
Nope. We all know that. We have from experience, yep.
Yes. So we've talked a lot about this thing, and we've come up with a pretty broad definition, right? Like it's anything made by humans that doesn't really exist without humans. But I don't know. I'm the kind of person, I don't like my definitions broad because, the broader it is, the less useful, in my opinion, it is. So can we try to narrow this down to say, like, for example, a shoe is a social construct, but when we're talking about social constructs as a philosophical idea, it's not usually what we mean, I think. We're usually talking more about big ideas like laws and norms. What's the term? Mores? M-O-R-E-A? Yeah. At least when I've heard the term used before, it's usually more things like that. So is there a way to narrow down our definition so we're talking about laws and not shoes?
Okay, so let's see. Talking about laws. So laws are indeed a very good example of social construct. So I'm trying to think of a good way to explain this. Like,
Rock is
driving on the right side of the road.
Yes.
Driving on the right side of the road is a law in the United States. However, like in the UK, driving on the left side is the law, and that's the right thing to do. So the right thing to do is dependent on what society you're in, because that society has constructed this idea of this is what's right and this is what's wrong. And so legally, not just morally is in a whole nother, whether or not morals are a social construct is a whole nother ballpark. But so laws are an example of a social construct, because depending on the society you're in will determine what is the legal thing to do and what is not the legal thing to do. It comes up a lot in like examples of I feel like I've always heard it be like Americans going to other countries doing something that is totally legal here and then finding out that, oh no, that's actually really illegal in another country, and then going to jail for a really long time, because the society they're in has constructed this idea of legality that's very different, because there's not laws in nature. Like we refer to them as laws of nature,
but it's not. There's no judge in nature. There's no courts of law in nature.
Right. It's more of like there are natural norms. Like I recently saw a video about this group of I believe it was chimpanzees who had an albino like chimp that was born, and all of the chimps like freaked out and like
the little group. Don't kill me. Well, I lost 2 lives to 1 snake, but we'll do what we have to do.
Oh.
I guess continue with the chimps.
Yeah. So the chimps all freaked out because there was a white chimp that was born, and it was in a zoo, and the caretakers were kind of confused and concerned, and the chimp ended up dying. They ended up like killing the chimp, and they were really confused as to why. And there were several theories that went around. One of the popular ones was that albino chimps look very similar to like a natural enemy of the chimp. There's like a small like primate-like animal that is usually more white, and so they like when they saw it, they just associated with that. And so the natural norm was to, you're in my house, you look like my enemy,
therefore
and to kill you.
Right. Okay.
Exactly. Or it's not like having albino animals is usually really hard to camouflage and to hide.
Right.
And so the social norm is you're a danger to us now. Go away.
Oh no, I killed the dog and then I killed myself. Wow.
You killed a dog? How dare you?
Sometimes when you're climbing out
in this society.
So, but what you're getting at, brings up another interesting point, that a construct, it's in the name. It's constructed by the society it's in. So therefore, it's relative to society, which.
Yes.
Okay, so this is an interesting point we bring up. Then we have to ask, what is a society? I mean, we really do live in a society.
We do live in a society. But no, that joke is like 3 years old. Get updated.
Well, you know what? If we live in a society that can't even appreciate old jokes, I guess we do live in a society. My point is, so for example, we talk about society as, let's say we're both in the United States. That's a society, but we're also both in California. Is California a separate society from the United States? Let's take it down further. In my family, the 5 of us, is that a society? And if so, can this society have different social constructs than the greater United States?
Yes. Okay. So this runs down a slippery slope. Not the fallacy, just a rabbit hole, rather.
Okay.
A really steep rabbit hole of when you talk about relativity. So I would argue that yes, the United States is a society. There is California society. There's Los Angeles society. There is like all of these things break down further and further, And I would argue this: even your family has its own social constructs. For example, in my family, it was very common we have a very high appreciation in our little society for movies and movie quotes. Okay. I know that your family does not have such a keen or high valued appreciation of cinema and movies as much as they do for literature.
Right.
Right. And so a social norm for my family would be we eat dinner and then we put in a movie as we're eating dinner and we all watch this like classic movie that we all love. I feel like that's a social construct of like that's what you do, kind of like the law that we were talking about, like that's what we do. But I feel like in your family that would not be a normal like everyday thing that you would do.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. So of course that's all well and good. The question comes then: what happens when two societies have constructs that contradict each other? So, for example, in American society, I don't know. I'm going to make up something. This is not actually the case, pressing that out there. But in American society, it's not okay to eat humans. Let's say in my family, it's a tradition to eat people. We really like to have grandma over for dinner. I'm sorry, that was a terrible joke. I shouldn't say that.
No commas included, I assume.
Yeah, of course not. So yeah, what happens then if our societies, say, have enough differences that they contradict each other? What happens? I mean, if grandma comes over for dinner, I'm sorry. If grandma comes over for dinner, but the United States says that's not acceptable, well, does something happen? I mean, I suppose there's more police in the country or in the state than there are in my house, so they could outnumber me by force, but is that... So force is a thing that exists by different people, but that doesn't really get into the morality of it. Like, plenty of people have used force in the past to do wrong things.
Right. And I think you're getting at it, and we're towing a fine line here between topics. So I agree that yes. Basically, the answer is usually it's force, either physical force. So usually, like societies, they come together like that. Like in history, there's a war that would happen. But I feel like in more modern day societies, like in America, like maybe if it wasn't having grandma over for dinner, if it was something a little smaller, and there was a large enough more like a community of like in your let's say like not just your family, but like in your town, it was normal to have grandmas over for dinner. There might be a social stigma that was put up around it so that you were forced socially to comply. Mm-hmm. Like you were ostracized and like rejected, and so then you just started complying. Right. We see this a lot in like other countries, especially in history, where couples would get together without officially getting married and everything, or like not do like the social things that were correct to like be in a relationship, and then they're just ostracized and like just rejected. And it's like that's a way of like forcing people to comply to this idea of, oh, this is like the right thing to do. Right. Or maybe not even just morality, maybe it is just legality, and it's like you're like technically what you did is wrong, and like we don't think it's like morally wrong per se, but we're just going to not associate with you because of it. Kind of like the Scarlet Letter is actually a good example. Legally, she just had to wear the A. Like that was all that was required, and like legally that was fine. But then people were still like, we just don't want to be around you. Like right. Go away. And so that's a form of forcing people to comply to the construct of what is right and what is wrong. Right. And so social constructs are, I know you hate it. They're very basic. They're not just they're vague. It's just that there's only two real components to them. It just has to be a concept that was constructed by a society, and the society would be, I would argue, a society has to be, it has to be a small group of people. It has to be a group for sure. I don't know if one person
can't be a society. I think we can agree on that. But I mean, in theory, two people could be a society, and yet we don't. When we talk about, we really live in a society, we don't usually mean that I live with one other person and never see any other person again. Society typically, at least how we talk about it, usually involves a large group of people. But I agree. The tricky part is just finding how large is this large group.
Exactly, and I don't think that.
Wasn't the best.
Well, social society also doesn't imply or necessitate solitude. For instance, like America is a society, but we obviously interact with other societies around the world as a society. Like there's the UN, where like officials that represent the United States go and they interact, and even along the border, like we have like Mexico right below us, and we have constant interactions between the two, whether it be trading or whether it be like visiting and going for like vacation. Like we obviously interact with those societies. So society doesn't mean you're isolated. I guess it has to be. I guess arguably a society could just be two people because it has to be a group, and I would argue that two is technically a grouping.
Right.
So it has to be a group that has their own set of norms, laws, and I don't know if there's really anything else that would require. I guess norms and laws.
Yeah.
And any two people who have a hold on. It has to be a group though. So like it would have to be you have to be together. It can't be, oh, I'm here and the other person's off somewhere else and like they're like a business associate who like we email back and forth. Like that's not a society.
Right.
It would have to be two people who I guess arguably live in close proximity and have consistent interactions. That's a good way to say it, I think.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, okay, so that's... I guess that comes down... That's a fair suggestion. So, I know we wanted to do a shorter episode today, but the thing about trying to time our episodes, there's always so much we can talk about. You know, anyone...
No, we did have a 4-hour discussion that went from our dorms to In-N-Out and back.
We did. We did. But maybe we'll rehash that discussion on the Patreon bonus episode, but not today. Not today.
Yeah.
So my question would be, whenever you hear... Oh, that was a bad choice. Okay. Well, whenever you hear someone say, oh, I don't need to care about X, Y, and Z issue. I don't want to name any particular things because, we're
not trying to get canceled this early?
I mean, we are, but, you know, let's try to keep it on the down low. Any topic you don't like, and they say, oh, well, that's just a social construct, in the sense of using that as an excuse to say why you don't have to abide by it, or you shouldn't care, is that valid? Because we have decided that it is pretty arbitrary, and these constructs by society that we live in... Okay, I won't do it anymore, I'm sorry. These constructs in the societies we live in are based entirely on the different societies. So if it is arbitrary in that sense, but does that mean that's a valid excuse to ignore it or downplay it or what have you? Anything like that?
So I think this gets into... There's a fine line here. So there is value in pointing out that something is a social construct. And it does devalue it in a sense because we don't like things being arbitrary. Because arbitrary just means that it's without reason.
Yes.
Like you just make it up and there's no, or I don't want to say there's no reason.
There's no
justified
higher reason, like no platonic higher reason. I guess. Yeah. Which that's a whole topic to get into, but we're not going to do that right now. But.
There's a difference between being justifiable and being being unjustifiable and not being, what was I just said? Not justifiable, but
arbitrary.
Without reason. So being unjustifiable and without reason. Those are two different things. I'm trying to remember which one arbitrary is. But arbitrary, I know for sure, we don't like it because it's more of a self-centered, like you just say it and it's like almost like random. And so when you point out, oh, it's just a social construct, what people are trying to say is that there's not a good reason to do it because we just do it.
Right.
Because that's what you do.
Okay.
It's that kind of like circular reasoning kind of. You do it because you do it.
Right.
And so there's some value to that, and to say that, okay, yes, we all get it. These are just rules that we're playing by. But the thing is that rules are there for a reason. And so a great example, going back to laws like you were saying, was if we're playing football, yes, the rules are arbitrary and yeah, they're just a social construct. But if you don't play along with the rules, we're not going to be able to play the game.
Right. So
yeah, you could argue, yeah, sure, you can run around the field to get a field goal, but then we're not playing the game anymore. You're just doing stuff now. And so I don't really think it's
Yes.
I don't think it's I think you said valid. I don't think it's a valid reason to argue to not do something. I think it is a valid way of pointing out that some things, it's a way of psychoanalyzing our own society and being okay, what are we really trying to get at here? Is this actually a good reason? Is this a good rule? So, and it's the idea of putting it down to saying You don't just do it because you do it, but like there should be a reason to it. Like, does this fit in the system?
Right. So I suppose this could get down to a much bigger topic, morality. So I think what you're getting at is, yes, social constructs are arbitrary, but the good ones should follow a higher morality in the broadest sense of the word. And what is that higher morality? That's a fun topic that we're definitely not going to cover today.
No, and I would say I wouldn't even argue that it's about morality. Like, getting back to like a football game.
I would say I'm using morality in a vague sense, as in the right thing to do. So in a football game, the right thing to do is play by the rules. So.
Right. Okay. So I guess what you're saying, but when an example would be, it is now against the rules in football to grab someone by the face guard and like throw them down.
Right.
That at one point was not a rule. Like, you could do that, and how that didn't become a rule very quickly, I don't know. But somehow
football's an interesting game. I like it, but it's an interesting game.
So that used to be a rule that you could do that, or it used to be allowed that you could do that because no one had really done it before. And as a society, when like we decided, could we do that? Basically, when you ask like, should that be allowed? You're kind of asking like, or you're kind of saying, oh, it's just the rules are just a social construct. They are not ironclad that have to be followed because like of a higher reasoning. It just is this best for the game?
You know what would be best for the game if I didn't jump in front of those spikes that instant kill. This game is frustrating, Justin.
I think the game would prefer you do that. So I think for the game, the best thing is that you keep doing that.
Yes, maybe. I don't know why. I don't know why I play this game. It's frustrating, but it's also relaxing. Justin, this video game really is a social construct that's arbitrary, but also not. Yeah. Which actually, that is an interesting question. Getting into game design, just as a small side topic in our discussion, a game theoretically is entirely arbitrary, but we do talk about, this is a good mechanic in this game. Like, I would argue in this game, Spelunky, the spikes that auto-kill you, at least the little sideways ones, maybe not a good mechanic. But why do we say that? I mean, if everything's arbitrary, what are we defining? I would say in game design, at least, game design is also something that fascinates me. Yes, the importance of both game balance, as in you don't want things to be too powerful or too weak, but also player enjoyment. So,
exactly.
Which is, I think actually, maybe not anytime soon, but I would be interested to do a topic on the philosophy behind game design. We are nominally a gaming show, although we're not really, but we are.
Yeah. I would love to do that.
But yeah,
and I think you hit the nail on the head. That's exactly like it's kind of what I was trying to say with like football. Like, the game mechanic of throwing someone down with a face guard is like it's like, is it good for the game? Like, is it best for like the game as far as the game is played and like ruling, and then also players' enjoyment? I would not personally enjoy someone grabbing my face guard and then throwing me down to the ground because they're probably going to break my neck in the process. So for like the players, probably not the best game dynamic. For the audience, also, then you have to stop, and then like the game has to like wait for the player to get off. Like, it's for the viewer, it's not good either. So it seemed like, well, yeah, It might have its advantages for the players. It seems like it gives the players too much power over the opponents.
Right.
To win.
The NFL, I'm not a huge football fan, but I do enjoy football. The NFL is actually really good at every season they come up with new rules and rebalance the game, which should be the goal of any game designer in any form of game. But we strayed a little off topic, but I think that's an interesting. You know what would be another interesting game mechanic? Not being able to kill yourself by throwing a rock at the wall and having it bounce down and hit you on the head. That would be another interesting game design in this choice, but in this game. But yeah. So, video games, society, bad jokes from 3 years ago. We've covered a lot in this episode.
I think we have
covered a lot in not a lot of time. So,
and I think it's put a good base down for our viewers. I think at this point, I think if we keep doing this, where we put like basic concepts at the beginning, we'll really make the people have to go back and watch the beginning episodes to get what we're talking about. Because this is our game design.
Exactly. So, with that, I think you know what else is the game of YouTube design? The thing where you should leave a like if you liked it, and drop a comment if you want to talk about how our commentary has commented on the society that we live in. I'm sorry.
Which was a social commentary on social commentary.
Yeah, and how, or if you want to comment about how I'm terrible at this game, which, no arguments there. I'm not very good at Spelunky, even though I've played it for a while. And then, share this video with friends. If you have, the best way to share it around before YouTube algorithm does its magic is just word of mouth. If you have a friend who thinks they would enjoy watching two fools talk about social constructs and making bad jokes while playing a video game, share it around. But other than that,
you might pick a vocabulary word you could drop. Impress your friends.
Yeah, exactly. And then, impress your friends by sounding smart by talking about social constructs. But I think that'll do it for now, since if we're going to end this episode now, there's no reason for me to die. So let me find the most entertaining way possible to die. Let me see.
This will be good.
But this will be good. Yeah. Not on this level. Not on this level. Gotta find a good one. We're gonna find it. And what does it really say about the construct of the society we live in that for entertainment, what I'm trying to do is find the way to die in a video game the most amusing way possible. All right, this should do it. So long, Cruel World. So long, YouTube. This has been Amateur Philosophers Play Games. See ya.
Bye.